Hi guys, got to build a new PC. The old one is starting to fail and mostly the USB ports are starting to become problematic. I'll plug in like a camera to make a video and then it'll hang or it'll unplug itself and then plug itself back in without me even touching it, sort of thing. You know, you hear the little noises and windows and stuff. And also the PC started to take like 10 minutes to boot, and I went to have a look at it, and the USB 3 ports have a feature that says enable legacy mode, and if that is turned on, the PC does that. It seems to take forever to boot, and also when you're in BIOS mode, the mouse wouldn't want to move and every so, and it was really problematic. And when I turn that feature off, it seems to boot okay, but then if I plug in a USB, like a little flash drive or something, it won't recognize it when it boots and stuff. So anyway, got to build a new one. So I've got a whole pile of stuff here. I haven't opened it up yet, and I decided to use this MSI rather motherboard. It seemed to be the cheapest one that has the features that I need. It has 6 SATA ports on it and a bunch of other USB ports and things that I need for the cameras and things to make these videos. And it has a mode, a creator mode or something, so you can optimize it for that. So we're going to try that out. I got myself a WD Black SN850 NVMe SSD drive, 32 gigs of memory, DDR5. Now I could have built a cheaper PC, but I wanted to go for DDR4 because that's kind of starting to go on the way out, and the motherboard is cheaper, and of course the CPUs were cheaper as well. But the trick with these PCs is like the last one lasted about 13 years and it was still plenty fast enough because I spent extra money at that time to put in extra memory and get a high level motherboard and stuff like that. So I'm kind of wanting to do that again. So that is it. We're going to be building this. I got this case over here. Now I'm not a gamer, so I don't care at all about RGB lighting and all that sort of nonsense. This thing sits underneath my desk and no one sees it anyway, so that's what we're going to be doing. I found this case for about $89. It's got fans in there that are quiet, which is important to me. Exceptionally silent and functional, it says. So we're going to be trying that. Anyway, let me open the case up and see what's in there. The reason I bought this case is because I have a CD writable CD drive that I still want to use, optical drive. And over here I've ordered a little panel. Well, actually I'll probably put it here, that has more USB-C and some USB. It'll have a USB-C Gen 3.2 socket on it as well. This is supposed to be a switch to make the fans go faster or slower, and some little lights on there. It's pretty basic actually, but it does have the 5.3 ports, and it has some 3.5-inch drive bays. Okay, so I finished building this new PC for video recording, for YouTube videos, and for creator stuff and all that kind of thing. My old PC was starting to fail. I plugged in more than a couple of cameras into the USB ports. It wasn't working anymore. There was something wrong with it. and it's 10 years old, so every 10 years or so I build a new PC and I put sufficient quality items in there so that it lasts quite a long time. In any case, the biggest problem I had with building this thing was this case. It is advertised as being compatible with coolers and things. It says here it's quiet, and that's true. It's designed for quiet operation efficient cooling. Mid-tower case can port up standard sized ATX motherboard with room to spare additional storage drives, graphic cards and other PCIe based expansion cards and water cooling hardware. False. That is not true. There is not enough room in this case to put a water cooler in there and to also have the front optical drive bays available. So I could not put the cooler at the top, which is where I would like to put it, because there is not enough room between the motherboard and the cooler. The two are interfering with each other. There's about 2 centimeters less space than what you need. If they made this case about a couple of centimeters taller, everything would have been great. But so do not buy this case if you're going to use water coolers. Secondly, I could only put the water cooler up the front here, and then the optical drive bays, 5¼ inch drive bays, can no longer be fitted. It doesn't say so on the web page, but it says so in the documentation came with it as well. So as I said, it's kind of false advertising there. So what I had to do was I cut this piece of metal off the bottom of the drive bay so that this thing can actually be proud inside of the drive bay area, which also means you can only mount one optical drive and there would be not enough space for a second drive if that's what your intentions were, because the hoses too of the cooler are right here. The top of the cooler is actually above this, so about a centimeter and a half. So that was one thing. Then I found that the front cover over here was actually solid, and it had a so I had to cut this out of there, and as you can see in the other picture next to it, looks like the camera is hung, so I can't point at it. But you can see it anyway. I put a grill in there, which I cut a hole in there and got some metal there that I painted black, and I put that in there. It also did not have a USB-C port on the top, so, and this motherboard has a socket for a USB-C Gen 3.2 port to go on the front. So I mounted that, as you can see on the other picture there. I actually mounted that in that grill. Another thing that I did was I added this card reader and additional USB ports device in the second drive bay, but I had to mutilate that as well in order to avoid the space that it was going to use because of the cooler there. But I was able to do that. I just cut away some of the plastic and stuff, so it only goes in a little bit and it could just fit. So that's all the work I had to do on this case. So the reason I put the hole in the front of the case is because I measured without the front cover on there, just idling, the temperature was like 31 degrees Celsius or something on the CPU core. And as soon as I put the cover on the front, it has these wimpy little on the side here. Oh, looks like that camera started working again. On the side here, it has these outlets here for air, which you think, well, it looks okay, but there's inside there's only a few little holes in it. It's not completely open, and it was blocking the airflow for the water cooler, and the temperature went to 52 degrees Celsius idling, just because it couldn't blow air through the radiator properly. That is why I cut the hole in the front there and put that grill in there. So now that's been taken care of as well. So what we actually have here, oh, and another thing is it came with these drive bays which actually fit here in the case, and obviously when you put the fan there, they can't be mounted either, so you cannot actually use the 3.5-inch drive bays either. So as I said, big deal, bad deal. If you want to use a water cooler, do not buy this case. It is not suitable. Anyway, they had me fooled. It says it was designed in Germany, and it had, you know, as you saw there, you can put water cooler in there and stuff. No, you can't. So let's have a look. This is the motherboards that I put in there, which is another story, I guess. This thing was cheaper than the Asus ones. All that stuff is fairly new. I wanted an AMD processor. I don't like what Intel is producing right now, so I got this motherboard here, Pro X670p Wi-Fi. Don't really need the Wi-Fi, but it's there. DDR5 support, front USB Type-C. Yeah, that's why I had to actually make my own little socket for it, because the case didn't have one. It's got USB 1020 gigabits ports, so that you can plug in, you know, even Thunderbolt things and all that kind of stuff. Lightning Gen 5, I'm not sure what that refers to, probably for the optional RGB Lightning if it's not using. 2.5 gigabyte LAN port, Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.2, and it has a rather nice M2 cooler over here, heatsink, and it has two PCI sockets that are high speed, and it has 6 SATA ports, which is what I wanted because I've got some SATA drives in there which I put Linux on and stuff like that. And that's about all that you could say about it. It has some pins over here which you have to put shorting jumpers on if you want to use them, like to reset the BIOS and so on, which I think is kind of a bit sad. They could have put a little push button on there like my old Asus motherboard has, but I guess it's all right to save some money. I put in a WD Black SN850 NVMe drive as the main one. I put a 720 or 770 or whatever it was as a secondary one. It's a little bit slower. So AMD, I've got an AMD Ryzen 9 CPU, 7900X3D. It goes 4.4 gigahertz base and 5.6 gigahertz max boost. 12 core, 24 thread. I think that will do me for a while. I found this cheaper GeForce RTX 3050 card. I like using these NVIDIA ones for you can use the encoder in there for encoding the videos, hardware encoding, so it makes it a lot faster when you're producing videos and stuff. So seems to work okay. And this cooler here is actually one of these, seems to be good, Liquid Freezer 2 280 cooler. It seems to be quiet and it seems to do a good job, and it is got instructions set up specifically for also for the AMD, but it works with an Intel Core chip as well. Then I got this thing here, as you can see on the front here, and the only reason I got that is because it has an eSATA port on it, because I have an older drive that I use for backups and things, and it's eSATA, and it does have USB, but it's like it's much slower than the eSATA, so I thought it'd be good to have that. So that's the only one of the reasons I got that. It's got some additional USB 3 ports up the front and USB-C port, and it has these card readers. But what I don't like about these card readers is I don't really need that. I have other ways to read the cards, and one thing I don't like about it is when you go into Windows, you get all these drives there, like 4 or 5 drives that are shown to be empty, and they get drive letters assigned to them, like J, H, I, J, K, L, and all that kind of stuff. So I put a little switch up here up the front where I can actually disable it, and then I don't see all those empty drives. And if I ever want to use it, which is unlikely, then I can switch it on. I have various different card readers, including this one here. Came with my camera. You can plug in these larger cards on the sides. You can plug in the little smaller ones in the back here. So if I want to read cards, I have other means of doing it. The only other odd thing I found was that when I was setting up this motherboard, I guess all that stuff is fairly new. There might be bugs in the firmware still or something, I'm not sure. But this motherboard has on a Radeon AMD graphics built into the CPU or something. And it has a VGA port on the back. And initially I was actually setting it up with that. And then I went into the BIOS and I decided to I added some drives to it, and I decided to change the boot mode of the drives. And for some reason, when I did that, it ended up choosing UEFI and CSM or something boot modes, so you can boot from legacy drives and things. Then when I said okay, save that, it would not boot anymore. It just sat there after you turn the power on like it was bricked. And I then installed the latest video. It has a feature of this motherboard is you can plug in a USB key in the back and push a little button and it'll flash the BIOS for you without having to go through the operating system. In fact, the CPU doesn't even have to be mounted for that. And that worked. It was flashing and then it stopped, indicating that it was done. And then I tried to boot it again, still nothing. So then I thought to myself, well, let's plug in the video card. And as soon as I plugged the video card in there, the GPU, it started booting. And down to this day, I have no idea what was going on there. So I went back into the BIOS and turned off that boot mode and just put it back to default, just in case there was a bug associated with that. And ever since, it has been working just fine. So the only other things I mounted in here is I happen to have an additional USB 3.3 Gen 3.2 card, so I can bring out some more USB-C ports. And this is an old cable from a very old PC, probably from 20 years ago. It's actually has got some USB 2 ports on it, and there was some USB 2 ports available on that socket over here. So I thought, well, might as well bring them out. You never know. Put a keyboard and a mouse on there or something if you want to. So that's about it. And so I'm gonna finish it off. Put the covers on. I did also put if you're wondering what this is a socket here that actually goes to the reset and the power on off, because this PC ends up in the corner there where hard to reach underneath my desk and behind a whole bunch of stuff. So it's hard to turn it on and off from there. So I put a socket on here, and I have a switch on my desk that I can turn it on and off with remotely. So that's what I put on there. Okay, so that's the adventure. And I'm telling you, if I didn't have a proper workshop with metalworking tools and stuff like that, this would have been not a possibility, and I would have had to return this case. But I made it work in the end. So okay, so is it working? I think it is. I've got 4 cameras going over here and there is no problems. There we go, all 4 of them are working. And with the old PC, as you actually saw earlier, I had a couple of cameras going there and one of them sort of hung for a while, and then it started working again. And I found that in the past that if I do want to use more than 2 cameras, then the 3rd one and 4th one and so on, they just blank. They don't even respond in OBS Studio. Or if I get 2 of them going, sometimes the 2nd one will have artifacts. It'll get lots of noise in it, or it might stop working altogether. It'll just, the picture just freezes. And I don't know exactly if it is just the PC not being powerful enough, or if it was due to the USB ports going bad. The USB ports were definitely going bad, because you'd plug something in and then it'd work for a while and then it'll go bing bing bing, you know, there's noises that it makes in Windows when it disconnects, and then it would connect itself again, and it was problematic. So now, as you can see, it looks like each one of these cameras has got a core of its own going. We've got one here, one there, and one there. And when you go to processes, as you can see, OBS Studio over here, it is using quite a bit of resources, although the CPU is only 5.7% and the memory is only 600 megabytes and so on. But it says power use is very high, and it's using the GPU for, and everything is working well though. Let's have a look if we can show up what the temperatures are like. Okay, CPU core temperature 50 degrees. CPU fan is not actually connected. I've got a water cooler. Pump fan 1700 RPM. System fan, I've got two fans still going sort of a third of the speed. CPU core temperature 49 degrees, system temperature 34, and everything looks good. Pretty low temperatures. Okay, so I think we've had success. All right, so hopefully when this thing is working, I can make some better videos. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and bell thing and all that kind of stuff. There haven't been very many people subscribing lately, so I need some more subscribers. So if you could, and let others know as well, I would really appreciate it. Until next time.